Hi everyone, it's Amy. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a patchwork comforter, like a small comforter square, like a mini quilt. It's a great thing to get you started quilting. It's a fun little project, so I'm going to be making one for a little girl. So the first thing that I've done is just draw a rough outline of where you want things to go. Have a rummage through your fabric, you know, what patterns you want to go where, what you think looks good. So I've just drawn a quick little doodle here of where things are going to go. Now because I'm doing the letter A, the little girl's name is also Amy, I have got some of this, well this one here is a bit different. This is called Heat and Bond. It's a very similar material. You iron it onto your fabric so that it doesn't fray when you were to cut out the letter. So that just helps it to keep in place a bit, so that when you do cut it out and sew it onto your main piece as a plique, it's not going to fray or you know, move too much. So that's something I've already done. There's plenty online, you can have a look and just iron it on. Now I've gone ahead already and ironed all of the pieces I'm going to be using. I have a massive box, it's all crammed in, so they'll get very creased. So I've already ironed those out. So the first thing I'm going to do is just cut this out, just so it's ready, and then I will machine it onto the piece I'm going to be using. So I'll be back at the machine with you in a moment. Okay, so I have cut out our letter A. As you can see, it's like a peach pinky colour with some white designs, and it's going to come to a white piece, just a scrap piece. Most of this is made out of scraps or small pieces, doesn't have to be big. So this A is going on here. I'm just going to pop it in the middle, just so you can have a you know, good border around it, so that when you do any seams, I'm not measuring, I'm just going to slap them together, cut when I want to, just to, you know, it's fun, doesn't have to be accurate. So I'm now going to need to stitch around here, so I'm just going to pin it in place, just so that at the machine it's not going to move too much. So just a little pin there. And there, just to stop it from moving too much. Okay, we'll now go over to my sewing machine. Okay, so we're at my machine, and I've set it to a zigzag because we want to go over the letter onto the white letter, white, just to hold it all in place. So I'm going to do that now. And just go all the way around, nice and slowly. There's no rush for this. Grab my pins. And there we go. Just make sure that your stitch is wide enough to go over. It would help if my foot pedal was actually under the table. There we go. Okay. So this might be a bit loud. I'm just going to quickly show you what I'm doing, like this. I'm going to crack on with that, just so it's not too much noise on the video, and I'll be with you in a minute. Okay, so I'm using my rotary cutter and a ruler to just straighten up these white edges now that my A is sewn into the middle, just so I can do you know, a nice straight seam without having to worry about all the wiggly wobbly bits that I cut into it earlier. So just make it nice and straight. You can use scissors if you want to draw it out on the back. This is just a bit easier for myself. Do whatever is easier for you. Okay, we'll sort that other bit out later. Okay, so it's rough at the top and it's rough at the bottom, straight at the sides. And that's because along this side, so with the A, along this side I'm going to attach another piece. So I'm just going to grab that. Okay, so we now have this piece, which I think is gorgeous. I absolutely love it. So this and our A, and we're going to place them right sides together. So you can just about see, I'll just move this over here, lay them out. So this is the front, so right sides together, flip this one over and lay it across there. Both of these edges are now straight, so there'll be no problems when we sew them up. And you can pin or don't pin, whichever you prefer. And we're going to sew along that line. I use about a 1/4 inch seam just to join these together. So over to the machine. Okay, so we're at the sewing machine, and I'm just going to do a straight seam down this side. So both my fabrics are the right sides together, and do a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. Pop our needle in, go backwards a little bit. All the way to the bottom. Okay, so now that is sewn together, we open it up like so. It's a nice flat straight seam. Okay, now is my plan. Okay, so now to do the top half, so that will be the bottom. So to do the top half. Now I'm going to make a triangle, so I need another piece of fabric. Let's find it. I've got so much fabric, it's unbelievable. So let's just move you over there. Aha, here it is. So this piece. Which piece did I iron? That bit. Okay, so that and that. Just going to trim this off a little bit without cutting the cable. Okay. And this bit. Okay. How do I want to do this? Just sew that bit on there. Yeah. Okay, so I have sewn these two pieces together on the machine. So we now have our A and we have the flower nicely together. And I have just, with my fingers, pressed this over to the patterned area because you'll be able to see it through the white. So just push the seam over to the pattern side. Now put this aside, we don't need it just for the moment. And I've got my other two pieces. So we have this pale pink and white checkered piece, and we have these owls. Both now have a straight edge. So once again, right sides together. And you're just going to sew down that straight edge. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so this is now sewn together like so. I want to be a bit difficult, make it into a triangle with the seam going diagonal. So it's still a square, but each piece is a triangle, if you see what I mean. So I'm going to trim this into a square, but sort of on the tilt, so that that seam is going across the diagonal. So our previous piece, I'm just going to neaten up the top, ready to sew this onto it. So I'm just going to do that with my ruler and my rotary cutter, and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so I have trimmed this, so I'm back now with a square with this seam going on the diagonal. And what I've also then done is measured this side and got my next piece of fabric and cut it to size already, so that will stitch across there. So right sides together and sew that down there. What I will then do is, once that is joined together, it will go onto this piece at the top, but I will show you how to do that in just 2 seconds. Okay, I've just sewed these together, so when you open it up, ta-da, that's what you have. I'm going to push that down. So we have our top piece, and we have our bottom piece, which should fit, yeah, not So you then take your top piece, flip it over so you've got right sides together, and then we sew. There we go. I'm just going to bring you a bit closer. Okay, and you open it up. There you have a bit of a patchwork. Now I have deliberately overlapped this. I didn't want it all going straight down, so I have deliberately made it, probably should have made it a bit bigger to make it obvious rather than, oh, I've missed it, but there you go. What I'm going to do now is the last piece I'm going to add on is, where are you? This. And this is just going to go along the side here, just there's one consistent strip all the way along. That's already a straight edge, so I'm just going to sew that on there and then trim off the excess. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, our top is pretty much complete. I have ironed it or pressed it, so it's now nice and flat and ready for the next stage. Now you want to have it facing you, so the right side facing you. Now this lady wants to have tags going around the outside, so what we have to do, cut your random pieces roughly the same length but here or there, just to give the child a bit of difference between them. I'm using yellow and grey just to contrast a lot of the pink that's on here. And you simply fold it in half, have the flappy bit facing the inside. So I'll show you here like that, facing the inside. And you just pin it. I'm going to put 3 on each side. You can do as many as you would like, whichever feels best. Make sure that there is an overlap between the end of your ribbon and the end of here to make sure that it is caught within your seam allowance. Otherwise it will fall off. But just make sure that it's overlapped. You just pin it on like so. And you do that all the way around. After that, we shall sew it. Bear with me. Okay, so we have now pinned all of our tags all the way around with the flappy bits facing the inside. And what I did earlier was pre-cut a bit of batting or wadding, which is about 1 inch or so wider than your top piece, to make sure that it's all enclosed. You don't want to get to the end and find out that there's a bit that's not padded. So we can lay that over the top, making sure the whole thing is covered and everything is nice and flat. What we're then going to do is to sew just 3 edges so that we can then turn it inside out. So I would say if you turn it over and put the batting on your machine so that you can clearly see where you need to sew. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll come back and do the next bit. So I have sewn around 3 of these edges, leaving this one open so that we can turn it the right way around. Before you do that, you just want to trim the excess batting off. And in the corners, cut across that diagonal so that when you do turn it the right way around, you don't have a big bulk, but be careful not to cut your stitching, otherwise it will all fall apart. So you get the side that is open, be careful of the pins. Grab your corners, hook them in, and flip it right sides out. And if you just push them down, you will see that the tags are enclosed in here. They're not coming out. So you can take the pins out and they are enclosed between the top and the batting. So they're not going anywhere. So just take all of your pins out all the way around. You don't need them in there anymore. And what you do is just, you may need a pencil or a bit of scissors to just make sure your corners are nice and flat. You don't want big bulky corners. Do that all the way around, and then I will show you how to put the backing on and finish off that last edge. Okay, so all of the pins are out. I flattened it around the edges. And what I've just realised is we're not putting a backing on because we've got tags and that's not going to work. So the backing will be the fleece that I've used rather than the batting. What we now need to do is this raw edge, you just fold both pieces in so it is hiding the raw edges, and you stitch the way along. What I'm then going to do is just do some swirly quilting, free motion over the top to keep it all together nicely. I think it's a very easy way of doing a small quilt or a comforter. You've got the tags in place. I will show you one without tags so you can see how to do a backing as well, but we'll do that another day. So thank you so much for watching. I will just get this sewn up and show you the finished product. And there you have it, it's all done. So I have sewn all the way around the edges on the outside just so that they all look the same, so it's not obvious that one of them was tucked in, just all the way around. And I have then quilted over the top in free motion just to seal it all so there's no gaps. And there you have it, and you can see a pattern on the back one quick taggy comforter, ready for a little girl called Amy. So thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thank you so much and take care. Bye bye.